Screen Slurps.
Hello and welcome to Screen Slurps, the movie review podcast where we discuss everything that is good, that is bad, and that is savage in the world of cinema. I'm Adam Meisner.
And I'm Dash Gearhart, and today we're going to be talking about the 2020 American film Nomadland, directed by Chloé Zhao.
Where you're living in a van down by the river!
I mean, yeah. Or in a desert, in this case.
I
Yeah.
mean, I was quoting classic SNL with Chris Farley, but it's still relatable to Nomadland.
It's a classic sketch. Thank you for that reference. We all rest in peace, Chris Farley.
I tried.
Did you know that Chris Pratt used to live in a van in Hawaii and work for Bubba Gump Shrimp before he became Mr. Famous, married to a Schwarzenegger, Chris Pratt?
Oh, wait, I had no idea about that, actually. I really... What?
But the van part or the Schwarzenegger part?
Either of them. Or, yeah, the Bubba Gump Shrimp, the Schwarzenegger. I didn't know any of that.
Yeah, he said he would work for Bubba Gump Shrimp, and he got discovered, I guess, in Hawaii. And he said it wasn't that bad being homeless, or in this case, houseless, as Frances McDermott says, which I agree with her. And he said that he would work enough money for gas and recreational stuff, and he would just live like on the beach, and said it was pretty cool. And then he got discovered out of Hawaii, and now he's married to one of Schwarzenegger's kids, his daughter.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah.
They could have put him on an episode of Baywatch, or they could have made him an extra for the next Forrest Gump film.
Or the next Terminator.
Hey,
Yes.
you know, Amir Khan's actually going to be in a version of Forrest Gump.
Really?
Yeah,
What?
I made that comment about Amir Khan being a version of Tom Hanks in our episode on Three Idiots.
Yeah.
Go back and listen to us talk about Three Idiots if you haven't already. But they're actually making a movie, a remake of Forrest Gump. I believe it's a Bollywood Forrest Gump, actually. And lo and behold, Amir Khan is going to be playing Forrest Gump.
Oh, man, Amir Khan. You know, I hope that sparks more Tom Hanks Indian-style movies like Big. I would love to see Amir Khan in a new Big movie in Bollywood. I would love to see Amir Khan in a Saving Private Ryan in India. And I would love to see Amir Khan play Tom Hanks' role in Mazes and Monsters, the early 1980s, late 1970s, something like that, movie about the satanic panic of Dungeons and Dragons. So that would be really fun to see Amir Khan in, even though that dude is like in his late 50s.
I mean,
right?
Just let Amir Khan do it all.
But he
Please.
can play any age. He's just a chameleon. He can be, I mean, in Three Idiots, he was playing a college kid while he was in his early 40s, and I believed it.
It's
you
true.
know, I believed he was like 19 years old.
I really did,
and that
too.
dude was like 43.
He really did it with class. That movie was incredible.
So good. I love Three Idiots. Go watch Three Idiots if you haven't, and go watch Nomadland if you haven't already. If not, this is your warning for spoilers. We're going to be talking about that pretty soon. But before we talk about Nomadland, we're going to be talking about what we've been slurping besides Nomadland. So, Adam, what have you been watching, playing, maybe making, maybe reading this past week besides watching our movie this week?
Well, since we're already on the topic, all aboard the movie train, choo-choo.
Choo-choo.
I watched the brand new version of Mulan because I hadn't seen that yet.
Oh.
And to be completely honest, it really was a lot like the animated Mulan. However, this one was, as we all know, live action. So not so much cartoony, but a little more realistic. Live action, very good action, I will say. The visuals were very, very well done. I won't spoil a whole lot of it, but very good live action and no music. So kind of a Debbie Downer on that one. But
What?
I mean, there's music.
No music
but
there. The whole
no
singing.
No singing. Yeah,
I see. So it's not musical.
There's music. Little rephrasing on that one. There is music. No singing. So it's not like the animated Mulan. Just But yes, there's still music. That's my version.
What song was that?
That's I can do the Donny Osmond. Let's get down to business.
To defeat the Huns.
Yeah,
Sorry.
but that's
All
about
right,
as far as my mind goes on the Mulan music. Other than that,
You want to do any Christina Aguilera? The
Oh,
is that girl? What?
She does.
Shushing me.
She does have a song in the new Mulan, actually. But that's
Really, Christina Aguilera?
That's not until the end credits, though.
Dude, that's a spoiler. No, that's okay.
Sorry,
I don't mind.
We're all about the spoilers on this. Anyways,
Spoilers.
spoilers. I also revisited the classic Mummy with Brendan Fraser and Rachel Weisz.
Love that movie.
Another classic film to go visit if you haven't seen it yet. And I'm not talking about the sequel with The Rock and the Scorpion King. I'm talking about the very first one.
That wasn't bad. The only part I hated about that movie was the little kid. That I really liked. I liked The Rock, and I loved. They had all the characters back, which is great. Even the bad guy was back. Imhotep, but their kid, I didn't like that little British kid. Nothing against British people. I have British friends.
I'm pretty sure that's my girlfriend's favorite part is the child, but
sorry. For me, that's what turns me off of that movie is the little kid. But that's not the Scorpion King. That's the movie. That's the Mummy 2 to introduce the Scorpion King. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. But
the Mummy, how'd you like that? How'd you like going back to that? Did you
the Mummy, it's very much like Indiana Jones, but in a much cheesier sort of just have fun. Man, Brendan Fraser just going to punch some guys. Whereas Indiana Jones...
He's pretty macho.
Yeah, Indiana Jones is just a real serious Steven Spielberg classic, whereas the Mummy's much more of a, let's just have a hokey good time in a very good way.
More James Bondy Indiana Jones compared to the Mummy.
Yeah. But it's a good one. It's a good classic. And other than The Mummy, I also watched the brand new film, The Little Things, with Rami Malek, Denzel Washington, and Jared Leto. And I was pleasantly surprised by The Little Things. It's unfortunately no longer available to stream. I believe they took it off of HBO Max on February 28th. But The Little Things kind of put me in this zone where I was getting a very film noir / Alfred Hitchcock kind of vibe with it. And it was a good feeling. I thought it was good. I was a little disappointed to see online a lot of the reviews were talking it down. I saw on Letterboxd a lot of the reviews from viewers were around 1 star, 1.5 or so. Maybe if you were lucky, you'd find a 2-star review. And I wasn't thinking that. I was going to give it at least a little bit more than that. But I thought Jared Leto's performance was pretty cool since I haven't seen Jared Leto do anything for quite some time, since at least the 2013 or so, I think, was when he did Help Me Out Here, Dash. It was the very famous
Suicide Squad.
Oh no, he did do Suicide Squad too, but I'm thinking of the movie
Mr. Nobody,
Matthew McConaughey.
Requiem for a Dream.
No, but that's another good one too. I'll find it real quick. Dallas Buyers Club. Yeah.
Jinx, no. Adam, you're free.
But I mean, it was a nice change of pace with Rami Malek and Denzel Washington and Jared Leto. Very much like the film Seven from
What's in a Box?
Yeah, what's in the box from David Fincher. Very much like David Fincher film. So very cool to check out if you can still find The Little Things. I don't know if you can find it streaming again, since I said it was taken off on February 28th. They might put it back up. We can never tell how streaming media works these days, but
especially with HBO Max, it's really jumpy compared to like Netflix or something.
Yeah. But it was an interesting film. I thought it was interesting. Other than the movie train, I've been writing and recording some new music. I can't wait to get that kind of stuff online, share that with some people.
Yeah.
It's always just such a challenge to be sitting at the computer and just pouring your brain into some sounds, because I know the feeling of just overcomplicating yourself with ideas, and when you just keep playing on the keyboard, you play one chord to the next, and sometimes it's so easy to get lost. But let me tell you, inspiration just comes from the most random places sometimes. And my advice to other artists out there is just keep hammering at it, keep hammering at ideas, whether it's writing music or writing a book or writing a film, or not even writing, just doing things, making stuff. Just keep going, because sometimes the most random ideas come from the most random places or things. It could be you're making dinner one night and then you think, you know what, I'm going to write a story about cooking dinner, or I'm going to write a song about cooking dinner. So
Not telling you what to do, and I agree with you totally. Not telling you what to do, but I'm just saying if you were to have like on your Twitch channel a regular stream of you playing music, sort of like a broadcasting concert for yourself, I would watch it. And I think others would too.
Oh, I plan to.
You play and sing very well, my friend.
I very much appreciate that. And for anyone out there who does watch Twitch, I do plan to stream myself playing music. I plan to do tutorials. It's kind of a split plan right now of me playing video games, very horribly, by the way, and playing music and sharing how to record and do music playing and recording on my Twitch. So it's going to be sort of a 50-50 thing right now, but my Twitch, I will share all of that at the end of our episode.
I wonder if anybody streams himself working out, not running like an aerobics class or a workout class, or just the cameras on them just as they're pumping iron. I don't know why I thought of that, but not even telling people like, okay, so make sure you flex your core and like you're going to be doing like not even telling anybody. They just say nothing, set up the computer or their phone to stream on Twitch, and they just work out with headphones in their ears.
And some creepers are just watching them like, wow, this is the best.
Yes, this is so good.
This is so good.
Subscribe.
Just streaming it. Okay. Other than that, I've been reading the book Sound Recording by David L. Morton Jr., which is literally just a history on the sound recording industry. That's literally it. It's just an entire history of the recording industry, and a very quick fact on that: around the late 1800s was when we introduced the appeal of the gramophone record players, which, by the way, gramophones are the same as the phonograph. It was America that started calling them phonographs, whereas pretty much everywhere else in the world, they are much more commonly referred to as gramophones. That's the technical term.
Ain't that America for you?
Yep, calling them something they're not.
Always gotta be different.
But yeah, that's what I've been up to, man. What about you?
Cool.
You phonograph.
Yeah. Well, I've also been revisiting some old movies as well.
You can research them too. I mean,
yeah, I guess I could research them too. Yeah, I recently rewatched Good Burger.
Please
the
Nickelodeon
Good film. It holds up. It's still really funny.
As long as you're researching George Clinton.
George Clinton, yeah. It's so good. Like, I forgot. Like, I didn't forget because that's why I went back to. I'm like, I remember how funny this was. I wonder if it's still this funny, and I really still enjoy it. Kenan and Kel, man, I used to be so obsessed with those guys. I loved the Kenan and Kel show. I loved all that on Nickelodeon. And Kenan is so good, and I'm so happy he has his own show now. And Kel was just, nothing against Kenan, but Kel was just over the top, hilarious. And I went back to watch some All That sketches that he was in. And I think one that really stood out was Repair Man. And he just comes into the scene and says, does something need fixing? And he would just take his wrench or his hammer out and just destroy it, like whatever it was. And someone would be like, oh, I have a cold. And he's like, looks like something needs repairing. And they're like, no. And he was so good. And people make different turns in their life, and just because someone's funny doesn't mean they owe the world their funniness. Maybe he didn't want to. Maybe he didn't want to do it. Maybe he made his money. He's like, I'm good for the rest of my life. I don't have to do this anymore. But man, I miss that guy. Kel Mitchell was so funny, and probably is still funny to this day. Anyway,
I can't imagine him losing his humor. Like, he was hysterical, and it just amazes me in my mind. I think those were the early days of Kenan and Kel, and look where Kenan is now. He's still doing Saturday Night Live forever.
He's got his own show now. He's got his own sitcom.
And he's got his own show. And then on the flip side, it's like, where's Kel Mitchell? And it's kind of like, dude, what? Why'd you disappear?
Now's the time.
Yeah,
now's the time for it. Now that Kenan has his own show, now's the time for Kel to come in and make his return, make his comeback. So I would love it. Unless something bad happened between us two, then I don't see why Kenan wouldn't let him on the show. But anyway, time will tell. Speaking of another person that was really funny and I haven't seen in a long time is Chris Tucker. I recently rewatched Rush Hour, which is a favorite of mine from back when I was a kid.
I love when he sings Michael Jackson in that movie. I'm just going to say that.
That was in the second one. That was Rush Hour 2, which also is really good. I didn't watch Rush Hour 3 because I don't know. There was something about the trailer, and I shouldn't have judged something about it. I was like, I think this might ruin the first two for me, and I want to hang on to the first two because I really like them. It was almost kind of like, if I knew how bad The Rise of Skywalker would have been, I wouldn't have watched it, and I would have just held on to The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi. And yeah, sometimes a movie like the third movie or whatever can ruin the past movies. It's unfortunate. So I still have a good place in my heart for Rush Hour and Rush Hour 2. But Jackie Chan is just a comedy action legend. Just amazing. And Chris Tucker was so funny in that movie, and he's ridiculous and hysterical, and still to this day I was just like cracking up, and I'm like, where is this dude? And I recently watched, he had a sitcom, or not sitcom, he had a stand-up special on Netflix, not too bad. And it was pretty good. It's pretty good. But that dude is so good in so many movies. And I remember another movie that I really loved during that time was Friday. I loved Friday, and him in Friday.
Oh, yeah.
With Ice Cube.
Damn!
Yeah, so good, so good. But anyway, yeah, those are the movies I revisited, and I've also been keeping up on Servant on Apple TV Plus, and that is very good. It's M. Night Shyamalan's creepy, spooky dooky show.
My memory of this is always just going to be Ron Weasley every week.
It stars Ron Weasley. Yeah, he's the so it's like basically a main cast of 4 people, and he is one of the 4. As I said earlier, he is not Ron Weasley in this. He plays American, Philadelphianite, that is. And he's a young guy. He's a bachelor. He's like this finance worker guy, and he is always drinking. He's always drinking. He's always got a drink in his hand. Anyway, he is really funny actually in that, and he's really good. I recommend it. Go watch Servant on Apple TV Plus. I also been keeping up on Critical Role on Twitch. It's a actual play Dungeons and Dragons show. If people don't know, I really recommend it. Matt Mercer is an amazing dungeon master, and they are on their second campaign titled The Mighty Nine. And I've also been contemplating watching WandaVision. Have you seen WandaVision, Adam?
You know, I haven't started watching WandaVision, but I really want to. I've heard a lot of great things about it, and it's almost like me seeing the previews for it already was kind of like, okay, this looks, not even the trailer, just the preview images was kind of an inspiration for me to, okay, I think this looks good. I kind of really want to start watching this. And then seeing everything on social media with all of my friends saying, I'm so hooked, I'm so into WandaVision already. That's already enough of a feed for me to want to watch it.
It seems like it's doing really well. And I watched the first episode. I was really confused. I'm like, what? But then I started hearing rumors that it throws back to that, because I used to read a lot of Marvel and DC comics, and it throws back to the House of M series from what I heard. And that really intrigues me. And because it has to do with a lot of reality bending, which, I mean, I guess that's a big part of Scarlet Witch's power, Wanda. And
well, this seems like a nice shift for a Marvel film or Marvel
something
series.
Different. It seems
something different. Yeah, exactly.
Because we've been getting the same kind of film over and over and over.
Yes, this is the kind of change that a Marvel series needs, because we've been cranking out the same kind of Marvel films over and over again, and now we have a Marvel television series that's a nice shift of a change. That's kind of what Star Wars brought with
Mandalorian.
Yes, with Mandalorian. That was the kind of shift we needed with Mandalorian. Now we've got WandaVision, where it's kind of like, okay, we've been getting the same Marvel things over and over again, and now we got WandaVision, where it's like, okay, well, something good is hitting here. All right, maybe we can have a difference.
Knocking them out of the park, man. And they're also releasing them week by week, just like Servant is on Apple TV Plus, which they are. I'm so glad people are going against the whole binge watch brand new series. Like, I don't like that. I appreciate it going week by week, because then people talk about it. They have a community around it, which is really cool.
Well, do you think that DC will make a shift with Zack Snyder's version of Justice League coming out?
I'm hopeful. I am think also so, hopeful. But I'm hopeful.
Yeah, I'd like to see how that is. I haven't seen the version of Justice League, the first one that came out.
I couldn't get through it, man. I couldn't. I liked watching, and I love Henry Cavill, but I get he's not even in it that much. And from what I saw, and the Flash is good. He's funny, but no one's responding to his jokes, and you can see Jason Momoa just trying really hard to like have fun, but no one's having it. He's just like, oh yeah, my man can't get enough of this. Like, it's just he's really trying to have a good time in like this dark, grim group of people. Anyway, yeah, I don't know, I'm hopeful, but I don't know, we should review it sometime for a future episode.
Yeah,
but
maybe,
anyway,
I was just gonna say maybe Zack Snyder's version is gonna be like the Lord of the Rings, and it'll be kind of like, okay, the extended cut you're getting with Zack Snyder's version.
I heard it's completely different. That's the only thing that really intrigues me that I want to give it a chance. But I heard it's completely different than what we originally got. So, yeah, I'm hopeful. But I've also, on the video game side of things, real quick, is that I've been replaying Final Fantasy X. Like I said earlier, I've been taking a Fire Emblem break, and I am interested in playing Final Fantasy 15. Now, the thing is, I've been interested in playing that game for a really long time. And here's the thing, Adam, I've never owned a PlayStation 4, so I recently bid on one, like for cheap on eBay, and I really want to play Final Fantasy 15. And have you played it before?
I have never played Final Fantasy 15. So
it's like a road trip game.
I don't know what to tell you on that one.
Like modern road trip Arcana Punk meets Hamlet, from what I hear. So that all intrigues me. So I'm all about those things. Anyway, that wraps up for my slurps of the week. Moving on now to the main part of our episode, which is reviewing Nomadland, which is a 2020 American drama film directed and written by the director of the upcoming Eternals film. Also an MCU film. Her name is Chloé Zhao. Nomadland stars Frances McDormand. I always pronounce that name wrong. Frances McDormand. And she plays a woman who leaves home to travel around American West. And the movie also features David Strathairn and in a supporting role, as well as real life nomads, which I thought was
That's
cool.
correct. Yeah.
And Linda May Swanky and Bob Wells as fictionalized versions of themselves. The film is based on the 2017 nonfiction book Nomadland: Surviving America in the 21st Century by Jessica Bruder. Nomadland premiered on September 11th, 2020 at the Venice Film Festival, where it won the Golden Lion. Rawr. It also won the People's Choice Award at the Toronto International Film Festival. It had 1 week streaming limited release on December 4th, 2020, and is released by Searchlight Pictures in selected IMAX theaters in the US on January 29th of this year, 2021, and also simultaneously in theaters and streaming digitally on Hulu, which is where I saw it. That came out on February 19th, 2021. The film garnered acclaim, becoming the third highest rated of 2020 on Metacritic, which found it to be the most frequently ranked by critics and publications as one of the best films of 2020. It was named one of the 10 best films of 2020 by the National Board of Review and the American Film Institute, and received 4 nominations at the 78th Golden Globe Awards, winning Best Motion Picture Drama and Best Director, and winning the latter award. And Zhao became the second woman and the first Asian woman to do so. Looking forward to a time where we don't even have to mention that, where it's just a regular thing for women to win director awards and Asian women or Asian people winning awards to do so. But hey, making strides. Let's move it to the future.
Exactly.
Congrats, Chloé Zhao. Hell yeah, that's awesome.
Yes.
And looking forward to watching The Eternals, starring Kumail Nanjiani. And so this film was also, the screenplay was written by her too. So she adapted the screenplay based on the book, as I mentioned earlier. And cinematography, which I thought was really great, was done by Joshua James Richards. And the budget for the film was between $4 and $6 million. And again, COVID times, like I always mention, for new films like this, it doesn't even matter what we mention anyway. It's made 1.1 million, but again, I think films should definitely, especially if we're going to keep releasing new films on streaming, is that we need to incorporate how many views they've gotten, just like YouTube and stuff.
Right.
Because that's how you kind of rate how awesome a viral video is. Like, this got like 8 million views and stuff. Like, okay, cool. Can we start doing that for movies now, since people are kind of splitting between theaters and at home streaming, which is fine, be safe totally during the pandemic. but I'm going to give these films credit, when they do really well, and I want to be able to like judge them and rank them fairly. So anyway, I have never seen this film, of course, before. This is a brand new film for us. I assume you too, Adam. Yep. Have you seen this before? Cool. Yeah, so I thought this film, the trailer really caught my eye, and I found it very intriguing. There was some very deep words of wisdom in there that was in the trailer. But yeah, what was your experience watching this, bud?
Well, yes, this is the first time I've seen this film. It's a brand new film in the United States. I thought it was very interesting that this film came out a little bit earlier, September of last year in Venice. That kind of caught me off guard in my research that this was released so much earlier in Venice and is brand new to the United States, but very cool that it was released a little bit earlier last year and is fresh to the United States now. What I thought was very interesting when I first started watching this, I noticed in the bottom right-hand corner, it almost felt on Hulu when I was watching this, that it felt like I was watching this as like a YouTube video where you kind of have the watermark in the bottom right hand of the corner of the screen.
Well, yeah, the searchlight.
It's the searchlight pictures in the bottom right hand corner. And I jokingly mentioned to my girlfriend, I said, is this going to go away at some point? Like YouTube, where it has the watermark, is that just going to disappear in part of the video? Or is that just going to stay there for the whole thing? And she responded to me, I think that'll go away after the first few minutes or something. It's probably just at the beginning of the film. And it stayed the entire film. The Searchlight Pictures was there for the entire movie. And I wanted to talk about that for a second because do they just have Searchlight Pictures there in the bottom right hand corner because of the lack of people going to the theaters right now? Is the production company trying to tell me something where it's like, okay, no one's going to go see this in the movie theater right now, so they need to know that we're the ones that are distributing this film?
I kind of thought that too.
It's a Searchlight Pictures film.
Yeah. It was almost like a bummer. Like, no, this is becoming the norm,
Yeah.
Like
so
I mentioned
the next
earlier,
Fox Pictures film, it's going to be like, Fox Pictures, this is our fucking film. And
it's like,
you're going to know it.
The new norm should be, diversity should just be a normal thing instead of a special thing, like I was mentioning earlier. But like the new norm. Or like,
you want to watch Ben 10?
No.
This is a Cartoon Network special, so Cartoon Network right here.
Yeah, it's like, I don't want movie theaters to just accept, or movie production companies should just accept that we're all going streaming. Like, I don't know, man. That makes me a little worried for the movie industry.
That makes me incredibly bummed. And then
it's a bummer.
Yeah. So moving past that, though, if you do watch this movie and you see Searchlight Pictures in the bottom right-hand corner, you're not crazy. Yes, it's going to be there the entire film, but don't let it distract you. You get past it. It's just there, and you just keep moving forward. Other than that, it's a very interesting film. It's very much a slice of life kind of movie. As I started watching it, I felt like I was very much getting a little bit of the documentary-esque sort of experience because, as I was saying, the slice of life kind of film, Frances McDermott felt very much like she was living the realistic life of this movie. And in saying that, as I watched this movie, I'm going to be completely honest, I was kind of hoping after I watched the first few scenes, the first 15 or 20 minutes, I was kind of thinking, okay, there's going to be some bumps in the road, but this movie's going to pick up, isn't it? And I very soon learned that was not the case. This is moving at a very slow and steady pace, and it never really picks up into any sort of real dramatic hype or anything. It's just that kind of movie. It moves at a very smooth going pace. And the whole point of having a nomadic lifestyle, as this movie is implying with its title, Nomadland, about living a nomadic lifestyle, is that her life is living on the road and living in her van, and you follow that lifestyle, and that is exactly what you're getting in this movie. And nothing more, nothing less. And you learn all about her with that. And I hope I'm phrasing that well enough for you, Dash. But as I watched that, I was just kind of thinking, like, is this going to get any more intense? And I don't mean intense as in like emotionally intense, because it was definitely very emotionally intense. But it's just kind of like, there were moments I was sitting on my couch thinking, man, like, what is going on? Like, almost on one hand thinking like this movie is kind of a drag, but at the same time you're like, it was very in depth emotionally, but at the same time, like, I wanted the wheels to keep turning, and it's kind of like, just, I felt a little bit like it was a drag. And I was kind of amazed that critics thought this movie was so overwhelmingly amazing. But at the same time, I wasn't completely disappointed. I apologize if that sounds like I don't know what I'm talking about. But
No, I'm kind of with you. I think on some of those things, I will say that it definitely has really great dialogue and really great, and all the actors are great. Like, felt very natural and real, and it really had great cinematography, of course. But here's the things that I was like, I thought I was gonna see something else. Like, I mean, a trailer's a trailer. A trailer's not the movie, and one shouldn't compare to trailers. So I'm gonna do it a little bit anyway. I thought that we were gonna see her go to many more places. Like show us a little more of like what, because I follow like some hashtag van life things on Instagram, and it always, I mean, it's Instagram. People don't. It's not always real. Yeah, I mean, like people really glam up Instagram. Do it for the gram, and people still show, I mean, you can't really glam too much if you've been to a real place around the country. They show all these different, fabulous, sorry. I don't know why I correct. They show these fabulous, amazing parts of the country, whether it's Rocky Mountains or, the forest in the redwood forest in Northern California, or the Appalachians in Northeast, or all the gorgeous places of this country, which is most of a continent. And I thought we were going to see a little more diverse, using it in terms of land, diverse areas that she was at. And it kind of seemed that she was just really in Nevada / South Dakota / Nebraska, kind of like in like the mountain / Midwest. And I was like, why though? Doesn't she have the ability? I mean, I know that later she was having van troubles, like she was having some car troubles, but I don't understand, like, why didn't, answer me this though, and I'm not sure if I know this or not. Did she choose to do this? I know that the coal mine in Empire, Nevada closed down, and they ended up like dissolving the zip code that, it ruined the town. I know that happened. I know her husband passed away. But did she choose to, do this so that way she could travel more? And because that's what really was a lot of like the nomad community was talking about. It's like, okay, well, I don't want to die with my boat in the driveway like my husband did, or, the one woman was talking about, or, because she's like, I got my boat in the desert now. So It seemed like, I want to travel before I die. I want to see the world before I die. But it didn't really seem like Frances McDormand's character, Fern really was about that. It just seemed more about day to day getting work. It seemed like getting work was more on her mind than it was about traveling. And that's something that she probably couldn't control. Of course not, because it depends on how the income is. And she was like getting job from job. And that made me kind of anxious. Like when there's no work around, it's like, what am I going to do? That thought of like, I don't know what's going to happen if I can't find work, and that was the thought, the feeling that I was feeling when she was going to these staffing agencies. So I thought that this movie was going to be more about like, okay, they do this because they choose to, because they would rather travel the world and see the world and be going from place to place, meeting different people, then staying in one place. And they seemed like they kind of got back to that later when she ended up going back to her sister's house and talking to her family. And also when she ends up meeting, Dave? Yeah. Dave again, and his family's house. And he was even trying to get her to stay and tell her that he likes her a lot. This person that she met and was seeing a lot in different places. I was just confused. Oh man, dude, real quick, that scene where he's like trying to give her, what was it, tobacco or something, and she's like, I don't smoke or something, and then she ends up taking it, and then he ends up helping her, and he ends up move stuff, and he ends up accidentally dropping that box and breaking all these plates that meant a lot to her.
She says she has ants in her van, and he's like, ants aren't a problem. Right. Yeah. And she's like, no, I don't need help, and he tries to move the box and breaks her dad's plate.
Dude, that I just, that felt So, I mean, it just like that's such a bad feeling because I'm like, I can't blame her for being mad. I can't blame her for being mad at him. But also, I'm like, I don't think he meant to do anything wrong. He was just trying to help her and he likes her and he wasn't trying to like harass her or anything like that. And he didn't mean any harm. But still, I felt both those people's feelings at once. Yeah. I'm like, oh, both of those are really bad feelings. Anyway, so were you kind of were you kind of confused by that too? It seems like we were kind of like going in and out of like what the focus was here, and maybe there didn't need to be a focus, maybe I don't know.
Yeah, I think overall mentally, I think I just came out of this film with confusion on should I really have enjoyed this film or do I not like this film? And I think looking back on it a little bit more now, I think it's just I need to let my brain digest the film a little bit more because I look back on some of these scenes and like the one you and I just discussed, that scene definitely hit me hard because I knew that she had a care for that plate. And I knew that because I remember the scene earlier. She had spoke with her friend about that plate, and she had very specifically mentioned that was the one plate she had from her family, from her dad. And she made it very specific that her dad didn't give her a whole lot of, silverware or any sort of, dining utensils or anything, but that one plate. And then, of course, it's that one plate that gets broken from the character Dave. And there's other scenes that really stick out in this film, too. And I mean, I'll run through very quickly with some of the things that stuck out to me. But some of the big things that stuck out to me were in the beginning of the film, as the film's kind of rolling along. One of the first things that happens is when Fern is introduced, Frances McDermott's character. She's introduced by going to the bathroom on the side of the road. So they blur out her ass, by the way, as she's kind of going to the bathroom on the side of the road. But this is the beginning of the movie. They're starting with her just, going to the bathroom. 2 scenes we see her doing possibly both number 2 in the movie. One in a bucket and one on the side of the road. Yeah, and it's one of the starting scenes is her just going on the side of the road. And then there's no fancy title for this film, by the way. That's another characteristic I thought was very interesting. It's pretty much Times New Roman font that just says Nomadland. And I'm thinking, is this just the artistic way of telling me that the main character and everyone else in this film is just that basic, that living a nomadic lifestyle is just that simple? Or is it the opposite? Is it living a nomadic lifestyle may be depicted as a simplistic lifestyle, but it's so much more than that? So you're telling me this via Times New Roman font. I don't know. Think of it as the way you want to. But I mean, it was very interesting. It's just literally, there you go, Nomadland. Then she goes on singing in her van as she drives to the Desert Rose RV park, and as simple as that sounds, her driving to the Desert Rose RV park, that's literally just about as simple as the rest of the film gets. It's just, she's doing one thing. She drives to Desert Rose RV park, and then it's every other thing that you can imagine her life doing. This is literally the life of Fern. That is Nomadland, is what is Fern going to do next? She's going to the Desert Rose RV park. She ends up in a store, pretty much like a 7-Eleven, and runs into her sister. She gets called homeless by her sister's daughter, to which she says, "I'm not homeless, I'm just houseless." I thought that was a very powerful statement to make. I agree. Very interesting, because she's living in a van. She's not homeless, she's just houseless. Very interesting. And she works for Amazon. I also thought that was very interesting because not only does she end up working for an Amazon, but she works for Amazon. She goes to a progressive RV showcase, basically. And she also ends up working at a wall drug outlet. They go to all these name brand places, and I'm thinking to myself, Wall Drug's like a town in South Dakota. Yeah, but they have other wall drugs that... or do they have other wall drugs? I've been to a wall drug before. All I know is that wall drug, because when her and Dave were working at that restaurant that she ends up meeting Dave's son at, James, he had like a uniform on that said Wall Drug, South Dakota. And that is, Anka told me there's like all these like billboards everywhere when you drive through South Dakota that like it points you to go to Wall Drug, South Dakota. And I think you're right. I think I just remember it because I visited South Dakota when I was in 7th grade, I think. That's probably the time I was at Wall Drug. It's a very, I guess, interesting name for a town. Sorry for those who live in Wall Drug if you're listening to us.
But yeah, it's Waldrug. It's a town in South Dakota.
Very interesting that she ended up working at a Waldrug too. But anyways, it's just very interesting that she hops through all these things too. And it's like she's working at Amazon. She's in her van trying to survive. She ends up parking in the parking area by a 7-Eleven. It's not even like a parking lot. I think she's parking on the side of a road by a 7-Eleven where she's told that it's freezing. And the manager sort of warns her that she's going to freeze outside. And she almost does. And one of the things that really stuck out to me with this film was the soundtrack. It doesn't show up too often, but when it does, the soundtrack is mostly just a piano solo track. Nothing more, nothing less, just a piano that plays. And I thought it was very good at complementing Frances McDermott's character, Fern, as sort of a complimentary track to showing that just this piano track is kind of like Fern's thoughts almost. It's kind of like it's trying to tell us sort of like a reflection of her character, this isolate. Maybe she's in her own thoughts. Maybe she's got a lot on her mind. And the piano is doing a very good way. It was a very good way of showing or, musically telling us that she's just kind of traveling along and there's all this, going on in her head. And you can just kind of hear that in this piano track. And you can see that through the B-roll that's playing that you're watching. I thought that was
I kind of wish I knew where she was, though. Like at one point she's by the ocean. I assume that's the Pacific Ocean. She was at a beach or shore with like big waves. I guess it could have been one of the Great Lakes, but it seemed like it could have been the ocean. It made me think of like Oregon or something, or Washington. But if this is a movie about someone doing the hashtag van life, like every place kind of blended in with each other, except for these big wide shots of mountainous Nevada, like desert, up against mountains, the Rocky Mountains. That's the only thing I'm complaining about really about this. And I try not to like bash films that we do, but like when I feel something, I'm like, the trailer got me excited. The trailer got me like, okay, cool. This is going to be about like, you throw everything, you let everything go and you just go and you see the world. And even if it's just this continent or this, the Americas themselves, you have so much land to cover and so many people you can meet just by doing, hashtag van life. And it just seemed like it was all kind of like in this big circle in the middle of America.
I don't think it was so much about her seeing the world, though. It was just kind of like, how can she survive after her husband has died and her town is no longer a town anymore? And how can she take care of herself with no husband and no consistent job and her living on her own, wanting to live a nomadic lifestyle? That was more of the film.
So living nomadic lifestyle, do you think that was secondary to just surviving?
Well, what do you mean by secondary?
Well, I went into this movie thinking that being a nomad was first and foremost. Yes, she may have like discovered that because, losing jobs, losing, the whole town's economy is going and a husband dies. And then be like, wow, I actually am a nomad. This is awesome. And even her sister's like, you were so eccentric and you always wanted to be out there. You always seemed like you wanted to, go and stuff. And that was cool. And it seemed like being a nomad was really like, this is the life I want to live. But then a lot of movies seem to be about like, well, I got to hang around till like, Amazon brings me back and stuff. I'm like, well, you could just you could keep driving to like California or something, or drive to, somewhere on the West Coast, bigger city, whatever, where there's lots of work. And I don't know. It just seemed like
really got any of
that.
I don't think we really got any of that until the very end of the film, because the film opens with her and all of her stuff that she had with her husband being stored away in a storage zone, in like this like storage garage. She's talking about how she wants all of that stuff with her husband being kept in this storage garage, and it's not until the very end of the film that she revisits that storage garage, and the person who owns the garage is like, are you sure you want us to get rid of all of it? And she's like, yep, get rid of all of it. None of it matters anymore. And I think that's the beginning, at the very end of the film, that's the beginning of her being like, all right, I can just go on without any of my old memories or without any of my old stuff, basically.
Where do you think she went, though?
I don't know, because at the very end of the film, she also just walked out on Dave at his house. I mean, she didn't do it in front of his face, but she just left the house. I had to look over to my girlfriend and ask, because I was like, did she literally just leave the house and not tell anybody? Like, the scene just cut out where she just kind of like walked around and was just then gone. And it's like, wait, she's not going to tell Dave she's leaving? He literally just asked if she wanted to stay and told her that it was okay. Yeah, and she just leaves because she's nomadic. Like, she just wants to leave and live her own thing. And I am kind of surprised, a little bit appalled that she doesn't have the nerve to at least say goodbye. She's just gonna leave.
Leave, but can you like at least be a little polite, you know, be considerate of his feelings? Yeah, I didn't think that was cool. Yeah, that was like, dick move. Yeah, I was kind of like, I didn't think that was nice at all. And I was like, poor Dave.
The man's got feelings for you, and you're just gonna walk out and jump in your van.
Yeah, it's like you don't owe him anything, but just treat him like a human being, you know. And
he
obviously
danced with you at a dive bar and took you to the zoo and invites you over to his house.
Obviously, they're at least friends. You know, she doesn't owe him in a romantic relationship, but at least treat him like a friend.
Yeah,
know?
exactly.
Like a human being. Yeah. So I don't know. I kind of wish that there was a little more traveling in this. You know, about a movie about being a nomad.
Let's go to Disneyland. Come on.
Yeah. At least I wish there was a little more traveling in a movie about being a nomad.
In a movie about traveling, do a little more traveling.
Yeah, it just seemed like he was doing these big circles in the middle of the country, and it just seemed like, what's keeping you? Like, what's I guess it would be her husband's stuff in the storage, but I was like, you could just drive to like Alaska or something and like come back in like 3 years or something and go get that stuff.
I don't know. That's my best assumption, is that it's sort of like a memory lockdown where this city, or it's not even a city, but this town and these memories of her husband. She constantly wore her wedding ring. She was still tied to all of these memories and her feelings with her husband who has passed away, and all of the things that kind of kept her embedded to what was a town.
Is that a nomad though? If like one just kind of like, if one lives in their van and drives around, is that really a nomad though? Is that a nomad style? I guess it would be, because I mean, I don't know the answer. I'm just curious and thinking out loud. I guess it would be because she goes all the way up to South Dakota.
I think it still is. I think it still is. She's still doing everything that a nomad would do.
You're right.
It's just emotionally, I think she was still tied to the town. And like I said, her husband and all those memories, all the stuff she kept in that storage facility. And I think there were all of these other things that were trying to pull her in different directions. These jobs, these people such as Dave. She had friends, the friend that she worked with at the camping center, Linda May. She worked with Linda May at the camping center, and she spoke with Linda May. She spoke with Swanky. All great people that were in the film, and these were real nomads in real life, again, who are playing fictional versions of themselves, but for the most part they did do real things that were mentioned in the film. I think Linda May was actually building a house in real life that was very like earth friendly. I think that was like a real thing that she was doing in real life as well. And I think that in my notes that I have here, the founder, the leader that was in charge of the cheap RV living, that's a real thing too.
That's very cool
that he does.
That they involved that.
So yeah, I mean, a lot of that is very real stuff, and I find that very fascinating that they really pulled all that in here. And I don't know what else to say off the top of my head at the moment, except that it's just, I think the character that Frances McDermott was playing, Fern, I think she was just very confused on leaving the zone of, like, you can't just get in your car and drive to the opposite side of the country when you know you've still got ties to the town of Empire in the matter of your husband and this job, this place, this factory, all of that stuff, and all of the memorabilia that's in a storage facility she didn't want to give up until what we see in the very end of the movie, where she decides, yes, I will let go of this. And at that point, you can only assume that when she finally gets rid of it, it's like you can finally just drive away. You can go wherever you want. You can do what you want. And you sort of learn when she talks to her sister, when she visits her sister in person at her house, that her sister is telling her, this is what you've always wanted to do. You've always wanted to travel. You've always wanted to just, you were so outgoing, and you've always wanted to drive around. And you've learned sort of a lot about the character Fern, that this is exactly who she wanted to be. And she wanted to do it with her husband, except now her husband has passed away. So it's sort of the learning moment where you think to yourself, Fern, you got to just drive out there. You've got to just go on your own terms. Just go. Just be yourself. Go get a job somewhere, whether it's Amazon or somewhere else. Just drive off and be you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and putting if I push aside my expectations I had going into this film, if I get rid of that, I did enjoy watching the movie. Like, I did feel the moments that they were presenting me. I enjoyed watching her just feel nature and the long walks that she took. And yeah, it seemed kind of cozy sometimes when she was like hanging out in her van, and the idea of it seemed very romantic to meet all these people. And I love that they were talking about, like, I don't ever give final goodbyes. There's no final goodbyes. It's just more of see you down the road. That was really
a line
cool.
that really caught me. When he said that, I thought to myself, wow, that is a very interesting thing. And how he compared that to him saying that to his son, who he said had passed away, and what would have been his, I believe, 33rd birthday or 36th birthday, something like that. 33rd birthday. Yeah. Wow. What an interesting perception.
That hit the feels. Definitely hit the feels. Yeah. See you down the road. I enjoyed that I believe it was Sonnet 18 that she quoted, that she was meeting that one young man that she gave a cigarette to.
Yes.
Yeah, and she was talking to him about this lady that he was writing letters to in Wisconsin, and she advised him to write her poetry, and she quoted Sonnet 18. I believe it says Sonnet 18. Correct me if I'm wrong. That was Shakespeare, and that she said at her wedding when she got married, and I enjoyed that a lot. And it was powerful. There was a lot of powerful moments if I let go of my expectations of the plot or wanting to be entertained by scenic areas. And it wasn't about that. It wasn't about that. I did notice that it was purposely not in this time. It took place about 10 years ago. I noticed when they were talking to this guy who was like an astrologer, or an astrologer. he liked the stars. This
astrologist.
Guy that liked astronomy. Thank you, astrologist. Looking for that word. This guy that was an astrologist was talking about a star that was 24 light years away, and he said, as light years work, that the light they were seeing now, it left that star 24 years ago. And he said that was in the year 1986, which means this movie took place in about the year 2010, right? Yeah. So it took place purposely in 2010. Now, when I say I follow all these people like #VanLife, I know it's only been about 10 years, but the world's it's becoming very different every year. You can make money just using your computer and your phone now. And it wasn't that common back then. Yes, people did do it, but I don't think I got a smartphone until 2010.
Well, hang on a second. Can I just say that, not to quote Wikipedia, but it does say that in the plot on Wikipedia, it says that in the first sentence in 2011 that Fern loses her job. So
okay, sorry, 1 year off.
So hang on now.
Well, then that guy, the astrologist, was wrong then, because he said if it was supposed to be in 24 years, because I remember specifically he said 24 light years away, and he said it left at 1986. I guess it wasn't its birthday yet.
Also, to also quote the film that we are speaking of, Nomadland, it is the very beginning of the film that mentions that it is the year 2011 that the factory gets shut down and that Empire loses its zip code.
So it just happened then. Like, because, it happened very quickly. It was like January, and then July, it loses its zip code at the very beginning.
Correct. Yeah, I mean, it is at the very, very beginning of the film, when it's opening up, it introduces the film by telling you that the town of Empire loses its zip code because the factory that Fern's husband worked at that develops sheetrock gets shut down. So in the year 2011. So it tells you it's the year 2011 that it gets shut down.
Yeah, I guess it must have been that year then. I don't know, whatever. I guess that guy was just off a year, whatever. But yeah, that makes more sense that it took place back then. And what I'm trying to say is that like it added to the struggle, the struggle of like, especially if, one isn't that savvy with social media or, the way people can like do remote working nowadays. I'm privileged because I do have some skills that I can do that remotely as well. But back then, even if you did, like, it wasn't as much of a thing. It was a thing in certain areas, certain people, but not commonly. You did have to get a job in person. You did have to find work. And if work wasn't available, then it's like, oh man, this is rough. This is scary. This is very scary. And yeah, seeing her keep her cool like that, I was like, oh man, I feel anxious for her. I feel scared for her. So the movie, what I'm trying to say is the movie definitely made me feel. It definitely made me feel an assortment amount of feelings. And any movie that does that, really, I guess I wouldn't say every movie, but most movies that make me feel, I give a lot of credit to, because that means they're powerful. That means they're powerful, and they're very intimate in a way, because they get in you. They get in you. Yeah. They made a place in your mind now because of the story that they told, or just the moments that they described and made you experience through your screen. Yeah,
I was also very curious, how does Frances McDormand, her character Fern, contact people when she's living in a van? If she doesn't have a cell phone, or if she does have a cell phone, how does she charge her cell phone in her van? Does she have a charger that runs through those car chargers? Yeah, does she have a car charger? Or
she does have an iPhone. She did have an iPhone or some sort of smartphone.
I can only imagine keeping that thing charged all the time would be the greatest pain, or trying to upkeep that van would be so ridiculous.
That would probably be harder. I don't think charging your phone would be a problem, but definitely keeping that van up and running, especially during those harsh climates. Yeah, that would be tough. Very, very tough.
Ugh.
Yeah.
That would be awful.
But hey, man, like some people really enjoy it. I think for myself, like if I were to be a nomad, and to each their own, I totally respect those who want to do that. Totally respect it. I think it's brave. I think it's amazing. I think it takes a lot of strength. I think it takes a lot of strategy and a lot of intelligence and a lot of preparation. And yeah, like I said, again, bravery. I, for one, like the idea of a nomadic lifestyle seems very interesting. If I were to do it, I think I would want to do it like, I don't know, on the other side of the world, I think. I would want to bike through Europe, or ride a horse across Eurasia, across, there
you go,
a plateau, or I would want to take a train across Russia, or I'd want to travel Africa or the Middle East, or, I don't know about Australia, because there's big, giant animals there.
Kangaroos.
Like spiders that are bigger in my head. And I have a big head. Like, can you imagine a spider bigger than my melon that's on my shoulders? That means it could eat me. It could literally, like a spider could eat me.
Very well could. And now I'm going to look up videos of that just to see the proof.
The only spiders that are allowed to bite me are the ones that get me Spidey powers. But I probably would want to do more of a Africa, Asia, Europe nomadic lifestyle. I would prefer that, I think, for myself. And that seems tough, but also amazing too, because that's a life of adventure. Yes, it's a life less of material possessions. Yes, it's a life that you don't see the same people often. But like they said, hey, no final goodbyes. I'll see you down the road. You end up making friends all over the world. And especially nowadays with the internet, you can stay connected to all of those people, and you can have a global network because you personally, not just like connected to them, like because you like the same things on Twitter, which is cool, really cool that you can connect to people through that. But you can connect to people by meeting them in person. And that's amazing. So
it's true.
The nomadic lifestyle, whatever it is, whatever land you choose to do it, whatever style, it is amazing. And I think anybody that does it deserves a medal for just being brave and strong and following their dreams. So I think that's really cool.
I absolutely agree. And, I just want to say, we were talking about earlier how well this film looked overall. And I forgot to mention, this film really had a very Terrence Malick kind of vibe to it. I personally thought I was getting the Days of Heaven kind of vibe, the sunset images and things like that. It made me want to go watch Days of Heaven,
or like The New World, or Thin Red Line, or Tree of Life, especially. Yeah, dude, you're right. Man, Adam, why didn't I think of that before? Good work. That is very correct. It's very Terrence Malick-y, very almost dreamlike. You're right.
Yeah. Which is a very refreshing feeling as I was watching this film, because if there's anything great to take away, it's those sunset shots and things like that. I'm like, ooh,
those are beautiful.
Yeah. And on that note as well, gorgeous. Let me just say, Nomadland won Best Drama Motion Picture at the Golden Globes recently. So if that's not enough reason to at least give this film a view, come on now.
Yeah, for sure. Well, buddy, speaking of that, just to talk a little bit about Chloé Zhao, the director. So just so everybody knows, she was actually filming this around the time she was filming The Eternals, which we are supposed to see this year, hopefully, starring Kumail Nanjiani, who got super duper ripped for that movie. Filming Nomadland, it took place over 4 months in fall 2018, with Zhao splitting time between set and pre-production for Eternals, which is scheduled to come out this year, like I said. And McDormand, Zhao, and other crew members lived out of vans over the course of production. David Strathairn and real-life nomads Linda May, Swanky, and Bob Wells also star, like I said earlier. But yeah, so they actually lived out of vans, which is really cool. Also, when it comes to other reception, which we mentioned Golden Globes, hooray, awesome. This film is also rated 94% on Rotten Tomatoes currently, of 316 critics, and they gave the film a positive review, an average rating of 8.8 out of 10. The website's critics consensus reads, a poetic character study on the forgotten and downtrodden Nomadland beautifully captures the restlessness of left in the wake of the Great Recession. According to Metacritic, which assigned it a weighted average score of 93 out of 100 based on 48 critics, the film received universal acclaim. And writing for The Hollywood Reporter, David Rooney called the film a powerful character study and said, like Zhao's earlier work, Nomadland is an unassuming film. It aptly meandering, unhurried, non-narrative layering impressions rather than building a story with the standard markers, but the cumulative effect of its many quiet, seemingly inconsequential encounters and moments of solitary contemplation is a unique portrait of outsider existence. I think that was very well put. I agree with that. Yeah. So with that said, unless you have anything else, I think we should move on to our Slurps Up, Slurps Down section, bud.
Let's do it. Let's roll.
Cool. All right. So if you're new to us, folks, this is the part where Adam and I give our final verdict on this and any last words that we might have about the film. Slurps Up means we like the film and we recommend it. Slurps Downs means the opposite. We don't like it and we don't recommend it. And sometimes there are shades of gray in between. So Adam, would you start us off, please?
I will start us off. Listeners, through my confusion that I explained in the beginning of my review of Nomadland on this episode, I would like to say now that this film is a very interesting film from start to finish. It is a very well put film, I think, of the nomadic lifestyle through Frances McDormand's character, Fern. I think she is very well done. I think Frances McDormand does a very good job in this film, and I also think the other actors and actresses, especially the ones that are truly living the nomadic lifestyle and portraying fictional versions of themselves in this film, are absolutely fantastic. I really loved the music in this film. I think it really complemented the acting portrayed in the movie, and I loved the visuals of the cinematography in the movie. Overall, I think just the story that is told in this movie is very well done and keeps you really hooked in throughout the entire film and keeps you really wondering after the movie. I think that's my major point I'd like to make. After the movie's done, you're just going to keep wondering what to take away, or what the main piece of the puzzle is in terms of what the main point really is. I mean, I think the main point is that Fern really learned something from her sister and from all of the people that she meets along her journey. And I'm personally, I'm just going to keep thinking about it. I think there's so much more to digest from this movie, and I just can't stop thinking about it. So I suggest taking a look at this movie. I suggest watching it, and I'm going to give it a slurps up.
I think with you, bud. That's awesome. And I do think that my opinion is yet to be fully solidified when it comes to this film, since it was just hours ago that I finished it, time of this recording, and it is still in me, and my feelings about it are still brewing, and I think that they are heading into a more positive light because I wrongfully went in with wrong expectations, with very different expectations, which I should never have that cloud my judgment of a film or experience with a film. So with that said, I will say that I do recommend this film, that it is a slice of life movie, that it is more of meant for you to feel, at least what I took from it, is that it's meant for you to feel what this character is going through, and this different lifestyle that a lot of people, I'm guessing, don't really think about that much, or think it's like a fairy tale or something. But there are people, real life people, that live like this. And sometimes it's not a matter of that it's a bad thing, that it's actually a good thing. It's something through choice, and it's amazing. And how great that these people aren't tied down by debt or, a mortgage, or a 9-to-5 that they hate doing, that these people get to be free. Freedom is so important. And that's what I think a lot of this movie shows, is freedom, but also the hardships with freedom. Because as we stay at home, if not saying me or anybody in particular, but if a person has a 9-to-5 or debt or something, they may have comforts around them. They may have stuff around them. They may not have to worry about day to day, like just, how am I going to worry about going to the bathroom? Just little things like that. So it's a trade-off. There's goods and bads about both, and it's just a matter of what suits you best. And I think this film, it really lets you live in that for a little bit, which is really cool. And any film that can, like I said earlier, reach into your heart and make you feel something, I think there's something good about that for sure. So I'm going to give it a slurps up. I may revisit it in the future, but I say people should go watch it, and slurps up from myself.
Nice.
All right. Whew, man. Yeah.
I think it's just a film that we just need to both let it digest in our brains a little while.
I agree. So, moving on. Thank you all for listening to our review of Nomadland, and let's look out for the Eternals, Chloe's next film. Heck yeah. Starring our man Kumail Nanjiani, as I mentioned before. It's just that he got so ripped. I just want to see a movie of him being just super freaking muscular.
Is he more ripped than Nick Jonas? Because I just watched the SNL episode with Nick Jonas, and damn, what has he been doing? Just going to the gym nonstop?
He is ripped. He just super pumped. And
all
that
he does
jawline is just, it could just cut pie for you. Just cut, I don't know why I said pie. Cut steel, cut glass.
Then I'm making a pie tonight, and I'm calling Nick Jonas.
I mean, I could just cut pie with, I could probably cut pie with a banana, and pie's just so soft, you know? Anyway, moving on to our soul plug session. This is a time of the show where we conclude it, but first we plug something that we do off to the side besides screen slips. So, soul plug for me, Dash Gerhardt, aka DJ, some people call me, is that I have an upcoming Dungeons and Dragons actual play show titled Journey Punks Stewards. It'll be on Twitch. It's launching spring of 2021. So stay tuned for an official launch date. It's soon to be announced. In the meantime, you can follow Journey Punks on Twitter and Instagram at Journey Punks, JourneyPunks, and on Twitch at twitch.tv/Journey Punks. Adam, would you like to solo plug?
You can find me on Instagram, Twitter, SoundCloud at Adam Meisner. I am also on Twitch at /A Meisner, and I put music up online. I play originals, covers, you name it. You let me know what you want to hear, and I will play it and record it.
Can you do a acapella version of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles cartoon theme song from the 80s?
The classic TMNT, like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. You want me to do it later?
Now.
Heroes in the half shell, turtle power. They're the world's most unified team. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. They're heroes in the half shell, and they're green.
That wraps up for this episode of Screen Slurps, everyone. Thanks for listening, and please be sure to like/follow us on social media. We release new episodes every Monday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and just about everywhere you can find podcasts on the internet. And please be sure to follow and subscribe to us on those platforms. And if you like our show, please give us a nice 5-star review in the Apple Podcast app. It will really help us, and please recommend us to everyone in your multiverse. It will help the show grow to new heights. And before I close out, I will say, just so you know, Adam Meisner edits every single episode of Screen Slurps, and he is amazing. He is responsible for this show sounding so scrumptious in your ears. So please give this man a hand. Mr. Adam Meisner, my hat goes off to you every day, forever. You got a friend in me. Closing out, This is Dash Gerhardt.
And I'm Adam Meisner.
Slurps up, and we'll catch you later.